Pyaw, everybody. We're here. Welcome to NIGHTCAP. Volume adjusted. Welcome to NIGHTCAP for March 15th, 2021. We're off to the races. Going to have a great show tonight. Going to be looking at all sorts of weird, creepy, unsettling things. Things that make you really go, oh, we do live in the darkest time. What's up, Prophet? Con la ninjagini. Senor Prophet, con la ninjagini. We're here. It happened. What a wonderful day. What a wonderful day, everybody. Salute. I'm going to take a drink. Let's listen to synth. These dark synth beats. All right, enough of that. Enough of that. Having too much fun too early. Start a fucking rave up in here. Anyways, how's it going, everybody? Going to be talking about some some unsettling things that I found today. I was reminded of today. Because sometimes you gotta like stare into it, you know? You gotta look into the abyss. See what's there. So I think this is the one we're gonna start with. Oh yeah. Ain't nobody gonna be ready for this one. I'm not even ready for this one. So today we're going to be looking at the life of virtuous pedophiles and the mainstreaming of pedophilia in this here United States and around the globe. It's something that's kind of picked up steam over the last few years. A lot of academics have gotten involved. There's TED Talks about it. There's groups that call themselves Virtuous, the Virtuous Pedophiles. We're going to be talking about one guy, Todd Nickerson. He's kind of come out in a big way. He's an activist, an advocate for the lifestyle. If you don't know what a virtuous pedophile is, a virtuous pedophile is somebody that knows it's wrong and chooses not to ever act on it. They're full of virtue. This guy's a little weird, though. I don't know. We'll see if they get into it in this like little documentary we're going to watch. We got a couple of things. We got this little documentary from our friends at Truly. And then there's actually just like a one-on-one interview with this dude. Somebody else did like a couple years after this came out. He kind of made a splash on salon.com. You know that kind of that rag, salon.com? It says he wrote an article or a blog post called I'm a pedophile, but I'm not a monster. And he went kind of into his lifestyle, what he was all about, kinds of things he would do. Like he reveals that he worked in a school at one point, that he fell in love with a little girl. It was very unsettling, but he says he never acts on it. Like that's just not his bag. But anyways. You're going to have to forgive me if I got the sniffles a little bit. I got mild allergies. Not big deal allergies, but definitely mild allergies. So it's kind of sucks for me. I know how you feel for me. The pain you see me in right now. All right, well, let's check it out. Let's just get going.
I am a pedophile. I'm not a monster. I have the traction, but I don't act.
No way. I don't believe you.
On it.
In September 2015, Todd Nickerson wrote an online essay in which he described his life as a virtuous pedophile. Barcroft TV spent 2 days
I am
with him
Todd
to
Nickerson.
investigate his claims.
I'm a non-offending pedophile. I have never ever sexually abused a child. I never will. I do not look at child porn. I never will. I obey the laws. I respect the laws. I respect society's position on this. I understand it and agree with it. I am part of one of the most hated groups of society. No question about it. We are the scapegoats du jour. If you look at history, there's always one.
Oh, Catholic iconography. We're already starting with the stereotypes.
Minority that seems to be the one that everybody kind of persecutes, and I think we're it. I'm campaigning for better treatment of people like me. We're non-offending pedophiles. Not all pedophiles are child molesters, and not all child molesters are pedophiles. Pedophile is, strictly speaking, is just somebody who has the sexual attraction to children.
It's actually not incorrect, right? Because a lot of times when it comes to child abuse or child rape, it actually doesn't have much to do with sex or attraction in that sense at all. A lot of the time is about control, dominance, those kind of paradigms. It's an interesting kind of question to be asked here, and I think this is kind of what this dude kind of gets at a little bit. I don't know if you can completely trust him or whatever, but it's the idea that if somebody is a pedophile, do we want to create a culture that allows them to be comfortable to say that to somebody? Because even if they go to like a therapist or whatever and they say, hey, I'm attracted to children, if the therapist deems them enough of a threat, they will call the authorities. They will do that. So, it's like, what do you do with that? What do you do with people if somebody like this, who has this kind of natural predilection through chemical imbalance or abuse themselves, maybe they themselves were abused, do we want to open up the door for them to go find help, right? Like, obviously, I think most people would say, yeah, we do. It gets a little sketchy when you start building, though, kind of collectives and communities and online kind of message boards and stuff, and you have to really wonder what's going on kind of behind the scenes in terms of these message boards, or are these things monitored? What kind of things are they talking about? Are they there as a support group to stop themselves from acting on their impulses? That's how they would sell it. That's how they would describe what they do online. But if you have any experience or any knowledge of like what it means to work in this field, I took a few classes on it myself, and they asked us one time to come up with like kind of a plan, like a step-by-step program to rehabilitate people like this. And you have to take so many things into account, so many different variables in terms of, if you have somebody that was an offender and then they're in like a support group with other offenders, and, part of being there is to kind of unburden yourself and talk about your experiences, talk about your crime. You have to actually even be kind of cognizant of the fact that they might be getting off on it, or other people might be getting off listening to it. So it's a very nuanced, it's a very complex thing, to be honest,
They may act on it, they may not. Pedophiles come from all walks of life. We come from all sorts of economic backgrounds, different occupations, and we look like everybody else. There are a lot of teachers and people that, who do work with kids, but I think most of us just hold regular jobs.
And this is something, it seems like more and more of a thing nowadays, is that they try to ingratiate themselves into kind of the education system, activities, summer camps, those kind of things, which is maybe that's always been a thing, but nowadays it seems like people are much more aware of it, and people, because more things tend to happen, I suppose, or at least not maybe more things don't tend to happen, but more things get reported now than they did maybe 30 years ago, right?
How would you say you managed to control your sexual urges?
A lot of people think that if you're attracted to kids that you have some kind of like unusual degree of urge to go out and attack kids, and it's not like that. Most people, when they see somebody they're attracted to, do they automatically think, oh, I want to jump on them and have sex with them? So it's the same with us. It's just, we just happen to be attracted to kids.
What age groups are you attracted to?
I would say it probably starts about 3, 4 years old, and then goes up into early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and it kind of peaks at about like 9, 10 years old.
Todd admits belonging to the internet forums in the past where the majority of members were in favor of legalizing sexual contact with minors. I wanted desperately to be friends with people who shared my sexual orientation, even if they held crazy beliefs, but I could never quite reconcile with their viewpoint. In August 2014, he discovered the website Virtuous Pedophiles.
I'm a political activist for Virtuous Pedophiles, which is a forum that I belong to. I'm out, talking to the media and things, and basically making the case for VirPed.
Ah, VirPed. Very Matrix.
The forum is devoted to helping pedophiles who do not want to offend. There are approximately a few thousand members. We have people who do feel guilty, deal with shame, and we try to help them get past that because
you got
they didn't choose their sexuality. As long as they're not acting on it and they're devoted to doing the right thing. Our philosophy is
yes, fucking
there's no
VirPed
reason to feel
indeed.
guilty for that.
They're cyber. They've gone cyber.
We can talk about books or movies or music or whatever. Just basically, it's just a hangout spot, kind of an all-purpose forum for non-offending pedophiles.
Do you think they talk about a lot of anime? You think they're talking about a lot of anime in there? Like, well, what is it called, lolly? Oh, there's such a big internet bullshit fight about whether lolly is criminal or virtuous or whatever. If you don't know, lolly is like anime porn, hentai, where drawings of basically underage kids being sexual, performing sexual acts. Anime is a gateway. Anime is the drug. Anime is marijuana to the pedophiles' heroin. You know what I mean?
My goals are to educate the public and also to bring people who are struggling with this attraction to our forum so that we can help them, provide a circle of support for them. There's not a lot of people that are out and doing what I do. There's just a handful of us doing it.
In May 2016, Todd appeared in the online video becoming the public face of the Virtuous Pedophiles forum.
What was your reaction when you first decided to show your face on the internet, so to speak?
Yeah, because I remember when this happened, he wrote, I don't know if they're going to get into it, but he wrote a big blog for salon.com. He wrote 2 of them, actually. He wrote a blog, I'm a pedophile but not a monster, and then he wrote a follow-up to the reaction. And basically kind of, it was like kind of an angry reaction, calling people kind of short, small-minded and bigoted in a way. Because a lot of times they position this when you have somebody like Mr. Todd here and the Virtuous Pedophiles, they just want you to think of it as a sexuality. While they say, oh, we agree with the social mores, we agree that society's position on this, we don't think we should ever act on it, but it's just a sexuality. It's kind of like just kind of creeping the door open a little bit. Like I said, I think that it's a very complicated situation because maybe we would as a society, we would want somebody like Todd to come forward and go to a therapist and see if he can seek some kind of psychological help for his problems. But on the other hand, I mean, it could be a gateway to something dangerous because once you start normalizing this idea, once you soften it, the rationalizations will start kind of pouring in for why. Well, they're like, well, it's not really his fault. Pedophiles are fine, and he did what he was going to do, and he just lost the fight. He just lost the fight today. But he can't help himself because this is his sexual orientation.
What was the reaction from the public, or?
Yeah.
Well, I got a pretty public backlash, but by the same token, I actually got a lot of support privately. I got hundreds and hundreds of emails from people who were very supportive. A lot of them were people who were survivors of abuse.
Are you worried about your own personal safety in putting yourself in the public eye?
You know, I used to be worried about my safety, and I do take some precautions. I carry this pocket knife with...
And I got this sweet arm, and it's got a claw on it to fucking throat rip you.
me, just in case I ever get attacked. It's never happened, but, you know, I've got it if I need it. It's a spring blade. There might be some crazy out there who decides to attack me. Plus I have this, so, you know.
There you go,
tends
see?
to deter most people.
See?
I was born without my right hand. It just didn't grow properly. I have to...
So every time he masturbates, it's like, he would call it a stranger.
Wear this. Slips right back
I
on.
got the stranger.
Just like that. There was one event that basically hammered it home for me. I call it my eureka moment. It was the moment I realized I'm interested in these younger girls. I was 13, and a neighbor had come over to visit. He had brought his little daughter with him. She was probably about 7 or 8 years old. I was sitting in the living room drawing, and I just remember looking up and just being blown away by how beautiful I thought she was. Initially, I repressed the feelings, you know, especially in my teen years. Because I was a regular at a church, I had asked God to take it away, and you know, I kind of felt like He had. And as I started aging and realized that the age of the girls I was attracted to were staying the same, that's kind of when I realized, you know, this was going to be a problem. I went out with a girl when I was 20 years old. So she...
Yeah, all geniuses have their own, you know, have their own strikes of lightning. It's all different contexts. Like, he's made a comment about, he's like, I used to repress the feelings because I was part of a church, et cetera, et cetera. But isn't that like kind of the work of a virtuous pedophile, is to repress your feelings about this? Or I suppose, no, maybe not repress them, because they're going out there openly speaking about it, they're talking about it. I guess they repress their desires to act on said feelings.
She was 26. She was very petite, so she was my type physically. Or I thought, you know, at the time. At this time, I still wasn't really that attracted to adults, but I thought, well, maybe I can make this work, you know. We dated for about 3 weeks. I kept putting sex off. Finally, I gave in. We tried it. It just didn't work. I went on a couple of dates after that with a couple of girls, but you know, it never really got past that first date stage, and it just, my heart wasn't in it. For all intents and purposes, I am a virgin. You know, I've never had full-blown sexual intercourse. Just hasn't happened.
You had suffered abuse
Yeah.
as a child. Can you tell us about that?
I came over to visit my grandmother. There was a guy that they didn't really know him that well. He was an acquaintance. And she asked me if I would take him outside to show my grandpa's garden. And he went out to the side of the garden and sat down on the ground and patted the ground, indicating he wanted me to sit by him. And so I did, and then he just basically touched me. So it was a one-time event. I wouldn't say that it was the only thing that led to my sexuality. I would say there was probably a lot of other things that led me in that direction. But yeah, I think it was probably a contributing factor.
Well, of course it is.
I am a pretty reclusive person by nature, so I don't interact with the public that much anyway. You know, I don't go out of my way to be around children. If they're around me, then they're around me. You know, it happens. You can't completely cut yourself off. My niece, then my friend's daughter did that one. A friend's daughter did that one, and then a friend's daughter did that one.
And they're okay with that?
Yeah.
They're fine?
Yeah, because they know I am no danger to them. You know, I'm probably safer with me than they are with, like, you know, a lot of non-pedophiles.
Of course. Of course they are.
I have a pretty healthy imagination. I think it helps me to process my sexuality in healthy ways that don't involve
like, check out this
any
comic book. Go to my
real children.
Indiegogo.
You know, a lot of my fantasies actually revolve around kids who are more powerful than I am. Is, you know, this idea of super-powered kids, you know, who are able to consent, you know, because they're just super smart, or, you know, they could just crush me, you know, if I hurt them.
Yeah, see, that's see, this is like, it's that right there. Shouldn't that be kind of a little bit of a red flag? Like his only concern, at least as presented here, right, is like the power dynamic between an adult and a child. It's not like the actual act themselves. He's like, oh, they're super smart and they're more powerful. They could crush me like a bug. I'm basically like a damsel in distress in front of these super powered kids that I've conjured up in my imagination. I'm just saying. That seems like it could go get squirrely there.
My family.
See, there's always tells. There's always these little things. Like they come out with like kind of this like, oh, listen, this is a thing. We know it's wrong, and we want to do everything we can to help people and be there as a support group and not to molest children. He's like, yeah, but in my free time, I draw comic books where kids are smart enough and powerful enough to consent to me. They say, oh, Todd, what beautiful wispy hair you have. Come here, Todd. Take me into their arms.
Recognizes that I'm doing something important, you know, that I'm kind of a pioneer, that I'm out here doing something that really needs to be done, and, you know, raising awareness and letting people know what people like me deal with, always struggle with.
Like these people in the background. They're like, what are you guys filming? Oh, this is Todd Nickerson. He's a virtuous pedophile. You mind if he walks by you? Can you sign this release, please?
I'm happier every day, and I'm actually,
this, dude.
I feel like I have a purpose
Motherfucker, what?
now. I am neither proud or nor ashamed of being a pedophile. At this point, I just accept it. It's who I am.
Then he just faded into the crowd. Well, there you go. That's the first one. So now I found a one-on-one documentary with that guy from a few years later. Because for being the guy who's the face of the Virtuous Pedophiles, like, there's not actually a lot of media with him out there, surprisingly enough, for better or worse, you know. Let's see here.
Rather die a virgin than, you know, harm a child or do anything that's gonna hurt anybody.
Never offended.
Right.
Never. You're not on the registry.
Right.
Nothing on your record.
Nothing on my record. I mean, I've got speeding tickets. That's the biggest issue, is not the sexual part of it. It's the emotional part of it. It's the part where, like, if I get to know a child, I fall in love with them. And then, as you can imagine, that you can't, there's nothing you can do with that. It's not like with an adult, you know, you can never reconcile it.
Have you fallen in love with a child before?
I have.
Hey, I'm Andrew Hales. Welcome to another edition of Chatting With. Today I'm here with Todd.
Hello.
What happened to your arm?
Okay, so it was a congenital birth defect, so I was born without it.
Virtuous pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
When did you figure out that you were attracted to kids?
The first inkling that I got of it was really in 6th grade. I can remember sitting around a desk with some of my friends, and for some reason there was nobody else in the classroom. We were working on a project. And, you know, as boys that age do, the subject of, you know, which girl in class was attractive came up. Mm-hmm. And all of the other boys basically agreed that there's this one girl who was the most developed girl in the classroom, was the most attractive. And I didn't say anything because...
He just looked at him and he said, I think she's disgusting. But you know who I really like is Emily, her baby sister. She was born about 7 weeks ago.
Girl I liked was the least developed girl in the class. So I thought, wait a minute, I'm the odd guy out here. I'm not gonna say anything. And then so it was kind of like, well, I was attracted to this girl in the class who was petite and not, very well developed. But I didn't really think a whole lot about it at the time. We were both the same age. But then about a year later, I was in 7th grade, and I can remember a neighbor came to visit. I was staying at my grandparents' house at the time.
It's kind of like because this came up a little bit in the last documentary, last thing we watched, and in that one he briefly touches on like the pathology or like how this developed. We discover that he was molested by some dude at his grandparents' house or something. Like that's kind of like, it seems like if you wanted to kind of be an educator or an activist and you wanted to try to be positive and encourage people to go get help, you would want to explain how this predilection can develop. Like, is this it's a nature versus nurture conversation? And it doesn't seem like he has very much interest in actually getting into the nitty gritty with that. And I'm not saying, it's embarrassing, it is whatever, but if you were putting yourself out there as the face of this group, that seems like it would be kind of important. Like, if you want to get people on your side, if you want to say, like, hey, a lot of us are abuse victims, a lot of us were treated poorly when we were kids, and it fucked us up. You probably get more support, like, if you're coming from that angle. My 10 cents.
And a neighbor came to visit my grandfather with his 7-year-old daughter. And I can remember her walking into the room that was adjacent to the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up at her and I just was like mesmerized by her beauty. And that's kind of when I first started to realize, wait a minute, my attractions go way lower than what I thought they did. I went through a couple of years of denial and kind of back and forth on it. But eventually, probably about the age of 16, I basically started to accept it.
You never liked normal girls your age?
Not really. I had a chance to, of course, I was pretty much a loner in high school anyway, and kind of a recluse even then. I really am right now. I'm
Hey Todd, you want to come out to the party? Nah, dude, I got a fucking Tsunamis on.
definitely not a very outgoing type of person, but even then I was more an introvert, and I stayed home a lot, and I didn't really date. I didn't do anything until I was out of high school. So my very first date, I was 18, and it was like a niece of a friend of my parents or something like that. We went to a Halloween party. She got drunk. We came back to my house, made out a little bit, and then I kind of realized this isn't working.
You just weren't into it.
Yeah, there was just no chemistry there.
Well, that's normal. Did you try a different girl?
I did, actually did. And here's the interesting.
I tried 2 more in my 40 years on this planet, and it was not for me. Don't be pushy, guy. Listen, I know you're a Chad. I like your sweet horse shirt that you're wearing, non-ironically, I'm sure.
Interesting thing, because that girl, she was, what I would call pretty well developed for her age. By the time I was 20, this girl, I was working at Kmart at the time, and I was working checkout, and this girl came through my line, and I was 20, and she asked me out, and she actually was 6 years older than me, which is interesting. She was 26, but she was very petite, very small, so she kind of had the body structure, and I thought, well, maybe this will work. But we dated for 3 weeks, and I was really, really, I don't know what I was hesitant to have any sort of sexual relation with her because I just didn't know if it was going to work.
You still weren't aroused.
Right, and she was one of those girls that, this was like the tail end of the 80s, it was early 90s. It was early 90s, so it was that still the big hair and the that look, and that's not a good look for me. Like sure. So I
So could you wear a romper
so
or
about the
something?
time we finally,
Please?
decided to try something, it didn't work as I expected it wouldn't, and that was pretty much the end of it. I figured at that point, this is not going to work because basically at that time, I started to realize that any girl that was post-pubescent, I had no attraction to, or very little attraction to.
When did you first come out?
Again, it was kind of a gradual process. The first person I ever came out to was a high school friend of mine, and he was a gay friend of mine, and so I kind of felt like, he would understand it, if anybody did. And this was back in the 90s, it would have been late 80s, like 89.
And back then we just assumed, gay guys were like pedophiles.
90, somewhere in there.
Okay.
'Cause I graduated in 91, so it was right before I graduated. He reacted about like I expected he would. He was very accepting.
Okay.
Because I told him, I have the attraction, but I don't want to act on it. I don't want to do anything with it. So,
Okay.
and like I said, he was pretty accepting. Then probably the next person that I came out to was my sister, and I did that through a letter, and it was a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because basically that was a confession to the whole family, right? I mean, I told my sister,
Okay.
knew she was going to tell the rest of the family.
Carol's a
It
real
was kind of my
gossipy
way of,
bitch.
Telling everyone.
telling everybody in the family, and it went about as I expected it was going to go, which was a whole lot of denial, a whole lot of people kind of, like I got into some arguments with my mom over it, and even today it's like, I have members of my family that can't accept it, they don't deal with it, but I do also have a lot of support from my family. So,
But you do want to be public about it for what reason?
well, there's a few reasons. For one thing, anybody who's ever had a kind of a dark secret like this can probably tell you that that kind of thing can be hard to live with.
Yeah. I'll say.
Basically, yeah, because you're basically presenting a false front, a false face to society. It's kind of like lying.
Yeah.
And if, for me, I've always been one of those people that I don't like lying even to myself, and I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got, the only way that I think, people didn't figure it out sooner.
See, it's this constant kind of appeal to like, this is just the way it is without delving into it all, how it could have happened. Like, we know from the last documentary that he had some experiences. One of them we know for sure is that he was abused. And then he says there were other things maybe that were similar to that he thinks is a part of his development in that way. Like, so it's not just like this. It feels very almost odd that if you were like a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, you're just like, no, it's fucking over. That's it. This is who I am. And that's why I guess it goes into this whole, the chemical imbalance of it all, maybe, I suppose, for some of it. But like, he has intimated that this is due to being abused, at least to a certain extent. Seems like that would be kind of a big deal. Like, that would be something to discuss, to talk about, to put out there.
Is that like,
Just me.
they didn't want to. It was one of those things where people, I think my friends and family just didn't want to see it. But the signs were there, I think.
Wait, what kind of signs?
Like, for example, like some of the artwork that I did was, although always about little, little girls or, usually like in fantasy things like fairies, I did that.
All right.
And I would collect, I had art on my walls, like, little fairy girls and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Precious Moments figurines. Anime.
Huh.
and I clearly wasn't gay, so,
Sure.
I don't know. To me, that's kind of like, and the other thing is, being that I was very kind of awkward around most adults at that time, but like I could be around kids, and it was, you know, I just was natural with them.
Yeah.
And even my mom commented one time that, you know, I was over at a friend's house and friends of theirs, and I was just kind of sitting there just to myself, and their son or daughter, whatever, came over, and they had their granddaughter with them, who was I think about 8 or 9. And my mom said to her friend, "See how he lights up when a kid comes in the room, you know."
That's because he's.
Like, I just responded.
That's because he's a pedophile.
I don't know. It's there's something to.
That's because he's interested.
You know, sexuality or whatever. That's. This is one of the things people misunderstand. They think that it's all like one-dimensional.
Right.
You know, that it's just all purely sexual. It's not. It's like anybody. There's a...
Yeah, but what else are you basing this on? Because, like, if you have not acted on these things, right, and you haven't... Like, are you saying that you're attracted to people that are not mentally developed? Like, how could you ever imagine that you would have some sort of fruitful relationship with a child? You know, you're not going to be able to sit there and have long, interesting conversations. You're not going to be able to talk about your comic book, Todd, with an 8-year-old. Or maybe you could. I don't know. I'm not saying that kids are stupid, obviously. Kids can sometimes surprise you a lot. I have a almost 4-year-old. Surprises me all the time with how insightful his thoughts are. But, like, what else are you basing it on? Are you just, like, you see kids and you're attracted to them? What are you attracted to about them? It seems all very superficial. It doesn't seem like it really has anything to do with like being in a relationship. You know what I mean? Like that's part of what, you know, I don't know. Is that what drives like the concept of attraction, the hormonal kind of response to like the opposite sex or if you're gay, the same sex? Like, is that what drives it? Isn't it kind of at the bottom of it all like a sexual kind of commerce in a way? I don't know.
There's like an emotional component to it. A lot of times, you know, for me, like the biggest issue is not the sexual part of it. It's the emotional part of it. It's the part where, like, if I get to know a child, I fall in love with them, and then, as you can imagine, that you can't. There's nothing you can do with that. It's not like with an adult, you know, it's you can never reconcile it.
Have you fallen in love with a child before?
I have.
It's like, fuck yeah, dude.
Was it a niece or?
Well, no, it was a young girl that was the daughter of friends of my parents.
Okay, and you're okay having that on camera?
Yeah, I mean, obviously nothing came of it. It's not,
right,
you know, that's.
Right.
But I'm saying I think for a lot of maps, that is the hard part of dealing with this because, you know.
Prophet says, look, man, it's not just that I want to fuck your kid. It's more than that. I want to hold them, caress them, seduce their minds, not just their bodies. I'm not a sicko or something. I want to take care of them.
People go, oh, you can't, you know, you have a hard time controlling yourself. You're going to, you know, you're destined to offend. I don't think that's true for most maps. I think most maps can control their sexuality just fine. It's not really. It's like anybody, you know. It's like
map,
minor attractive person. We usually go by. Oh. Some of us go by that. Some of us go, you know.
Verped, ethical.
Yeah.
A verped, ethical pedophile, virtuous pedophile, maps. Got all sorts of fun names for our groups. The maps thing, though, he's kind of being disingenuous about the maps because I know about the maps, and they were actually in the internet zeitgeist for a hot minute, like 10 months ago, because they come out in droves on social media and just like self-identify as maps, and they kind of, and a lot of them advocate for child-adult relationships. They advocate for it because they come from this philosophical tradition, these Foucault. Where they're kind of deconstructionist philosophers, postmodern philosophers, and they advocated throughout their work and just in like public, you know, for children being able to consent to sexual relationships with adults. That's the thing. And that's kind of where those people come from. They reference those kinds of things and be like, this has been going on for thousands of years. People fucking kids. As if we can't progress as a society and be like, we've become better. Maybe we've seen the error of our ways. We used to do a lot of fucking weird shit. Prophet says, you're going to sit here and tell me there's no ethical way to fuck a kid? What? Come on. Come on, dude.
Ethical ped or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Political activists. What are some of the goals that you're trying to accomplish?
Oh, okay. Well, this kind of ties back to the reason why I'm out.
Right.
First and foremost, I want young MAPs to understand, that they're not doomed to offend. That's nonsense. That's a myth.
Mm-hmm.
And I fear that a lot of times kids that are dealing with a sexuality, that becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, for them. Like they internalize that message.
Probably to be fair, that's probably partially true. There is nothing in society that says like you are not going to do these things. Even on the jokes I've been making, right? That you're not going to do these things. That it's not an inevitability to some degree. And that's the complicated nature of this conversation. This topic. It's like like I said, like you do want people to feel comfortable to go get help if they actually have enough self-awareness to do so. That's a tough thing. It's a tough thing because I think it's a very dangerous road. It's a dangerous organizing. It's and a lot of the activists that get involved in this are young people and they have no idea what they're talking about, and they seem like they're completely in it for sexual relationships, and they want to lump it in with the LGBTQ RSTV whatever, RSBECT group. Like they want to include themselves in that as part of that conversation, as that civil rights conversation. They want to be included in it. Which, where does that lead? Like I said.
And, I'm destined to offend anyway, so, whatever. That's not true. So I want to, and also just to give them support because, I can remember what it was like being 16, 17, 18, dealing with that sexuality and not having anybody to turn to and not having anybody I could talk about it with it, and so I'm, and the other part of it is that I want to show society, yes, non-offending MAPs exist. We are out there.
Yeah.
And most of us are, they don't want to come out because they have families or, for some reason it jeopardizes their job or whatever, So
okay.
Because of the stigma, most no MAPs are afraid to come out.
Did you ever try to make it go away? Or I don't know, just try to...
I've tried to, especially during my college years, because right before I graduated college in 2003, I was I kind of went to college late.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start going until I was 25, and I graduated when I was about 30.
Mm-hmm.
So the last couple of years of college, I was in a really, really weird place. I was smoking a lot of weed.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of trying to change who I was, and because I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm down to the wire now, and I'm about to go out into the world and have to be a professional and do all this stuff. I need to get serious about this and try to, change my sexuality, or at least make it where I can live with somebody,
Yeah.
And so I tried to do that.
Yeah.
And it backfired horribly. Because basically, I was trying to, the comparison that I usually use.
Force it,
yeah, you're forcing it, and it's kind of like taking a rubber band and pulling it, and eventually.
Prophet says this guy seems like he was properly socialized by public school and cable TV. Yes.
That rubber band is going to snap, right?
Mm.
I mean, you can only pull it so far. Sexuality is something that's, part of your nature. You just can't. It doesn't work that way. I would rather die a virgin than harm a child or do anything that's going to.
Because he loves
hurt
them so
anybody.
much.
And
you think Todd's ever met a kid he didn't fall in love with? I don't think so.
In a way, like I said, I'm modeling that it's possible for MAPS to live a celibate life. It's entirely possible. It's not easy. It comes with all sorts of complications. I mean,
I love the interviewer.
There's, the main one being just dealing with the loneliness of it. Not having a
Prophet says that rubber band is gonna snap. You can only pull it so far, like a 7-year-old pussy. What was your question again? Sorry, I got distracted.
Most people, they have, gay or straight, you have somebody you can talk to every day. That's your partner that you can,
Right.
And me, I live alone, but I've lived that way for a long time, and I'm kind of used to it now.
Yeah.
So,
so you mentioned in the Barcross video that you were abused, you were fondled for a second when you were 11 or something. 7.
Yeah.
And then you said that there might have been some other contributing factor.
So there we go. He's lulled him in. He's like, now listen, let's get to the meat of what the situation. I have a feeling Todd is not going to be too forthcoming. I don't think he's going to get really into this, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Like what else? What were those factors?
Okay, so my theory on the development of sexualities, at least I feel like there is a genetic component that probably pushes people one way or another, but it doesn't it's not the overall determining factor. Like it might push somebody, like it's there may be the standard default.
Fondled for a second. Psst, I got molested way more than that before I became a pervert. I guess everybody's got their different thresholds, you know what I mean?
Heterotelio normative sexuality for most people. There may be genetic mutations that kind of push people in other directions, but I believe that really it's a combination of genetics and environment that create somebody's sexuality. So I don't believe that just because somebody was sexually molested, that necessarily means they're going to be a pedophile. Obviously, that happens all the time, and not everybody who it happens to becomes a pedophile, but some people do. It's higher than the average of people who aren't.
Okay.
So that suggests to me that it's a factor, but I don't think it's the only factor. I think what happens, in my case, like what happened is I ended up kind of identifying with my abuser in a way because I can remember being 11 years old and sitting there in the back of my dad's Jeep. He had a Jeep at the time. He was driving, and he had a friend in the passenger seat. And the story came over the radio about like a local child who had been sexually abused. Like there wasn't a lot of details. I mean, it was a news story. And I can remember my dad saying to his friend something like, "They should take people like that and put weights on their testicles till they're crushed." And I was horrified by that because I was like, well, my dad did not know. As far as I know, I don't think he was aware at that time of my own abuse because I hadn't really talked about it. The only person that really knew, as far as I know, was my grandmother because she was the only one that I had told up till that point. But anyway, so where was I?
So yeah, in the car with your dad.
Yeah,
and he says that. Yeah.
And he says that, and I'm sitting there going, I'm filtering it through my own experience, and I can remember I kind of liked my abuser, even though he touched me. And, he didn't hurt me. It was just touching.
Yeah.
And it was a little weird. It was something where I went, okay, well that's unusual. That's not something that usually happens. But at the same time, I didn't really make much of it at the time, and I kind of feel like maybe if certain things didn't happen, that I might have been able to get past that. But I think because of certain events that happened afterward that kind of like pulled me back towards it and kind of made me sort of obsess about it in a way. And I don't think those kind of experiences are the same for everybody. I do think that,
This is what I'm talking about. Like, he talks about that one event, implies that there's others, and doesn't really get into it, which I guess, I don't know, whatever. But it doesn't like really help his case. And then he's kind of comes at it from this weird perspective of an 11-year-old having the kind of cognitive ability to hold these kind of ideas in their mind. Now, that's not to say some kids aren't smarter than other kids, etc., etc. Some kids it doesn't affect in the same way it affects other kids, obviously. But to have that kind of self-awareness at 11, I don't know. I don't know if I completely buy that. I don't know if I don't think he's just kind of projecting his, like in a hindsight kind of way, like how he feels right now. Because he's like, no, not a big deal. You know, it wasn't that bad for me. It just wasn't a big deal, you know?
There's probably, like, for some...
He gets really nervous when he's talking about it, too. I mean, I guess, he's being honest. He's kind of throwing himself out there. Maybe it's unpleasant memory. I don't know. He's not kind of indicating intellectually that it's unpleasant for him in terms of how he remembers it. He remembers just being more afraid because his father wouldn't understand a person with the kind of feelings he had and felt bad for the person that abused him.
Some maps, I know they had a very, very sexual childhood. Like they were sexual with a lot of other kids. And so, I mean, that might be a factor. Some of them were actually...
most kids are sexual with other kids. I mean, I guess hopefully they're a little bit older. That's generally how that happens, Todd.
Like way more severely abused than I was, and they still ended up a map. So I don't know. It's hard to say, it's one thing or the other. I think it's really a combination of factors that make people...
Rehabilitation for his...
Yeah, are they asking if I've had counseling?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually in counseling now. In fact, I had a counseling session yesterday, or I was supposed to.
Okay.
It got canceled, but I did see my nurse. I got my meds.
How long you been going to counseling?
This last time since January of this year, so almost a full year.
Are they trying to correct your orientation, or
no? They don't.
just...
They don't do that. They
Okay.
can't do that anyway. They know
right.
they can't do that.
All
It's what they do is they just provide support. And I was there mainly for depression anyway. So,
Okay.
I'm not really there for them. I don't really talk. I don't tell them about this. I'm just there for being depressed because I'm a recluse that lives by myself.
Okay, sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, there's this misconception.
Yeah, sorry. Let's pause for a sec.
Pause for a second. It's the fucking fuzz.
That's fine.
My back.
Yeah.
Gotta check the tweets. What's up, you fucking kid
Okay.
fucker?
Yeah. Is it it's a misconception.
There's a misconception that MAPS who go into counseling, they can be cured. Somehow they expect counselors to, change. There's, and a lot of that comes down to this idea that they believe that pedophilia is not really a sexuality. There's every indicator that it is. If you parse out what a sexuality is, and that's kind of a up in the air question still. A lot of people haven't really kind of decided exactly what it is. But for me, the signs are, it starts young, usually around puberty, if not before. It's there's the emotional component to it, so it's not just purely sexual.
See, he kind of is not getting into the deeper psychology of sexuality and what drives human beings to be sexually attracted to the opposite sex. There are people that have, chemicals, whatever, a gene, like he said, there's a genetic kind of component to it as well. But a lot of it is just kind of this very primal thing about the propagation of the species. So that's why it starts taking effect during puberty, because you're basically starting to become sexually viable, in terms of breeding. You could have a kid when you're 13. You shouldn't, but you can. And that's part of what drives that. That's the hormonal impulses. Yeah, there's like emotions and all these other things that get involved once you start developing relationships with people. But there is something at the bottom of it that is completely primal, and it's completely about procreation. There obviously, the reason why it feels good is like the evolutionary, in an evolutionary perspective, it makes you want to do it. You want to fucking drop that hot load in her fucking meat sleeve, boy. And you make a baby. That's how it works, Todd. That's how it works. So, kind of framing it this way, a little disingenuous, Nickerson. A little disingenuous, buddy.
There's characteristics.
Right.
You can figure out what a sexuality is. It ticks off all the boxes.
Okay.
And I don't think that, I don't believe in conversion therapy, either for gays or for pedophiles. I don't think it.
I love how he just keeps wanting to lump these things together. He's like, gays, pedophiles, we're kind of the same. My gay friend, he understood.
Works. And it ends up doing more. It would end up doing more harm than good. So, the best they can do is help us to cope and find ways to live with it without causing harm. There's about 5 or 6 different core reasons why MAPS abuse kids, and percentage-wise, that offense is like something like 70%. So roughly like anywhere from I've seen percentages from 50 to about 80%. So I'll say about 70% or 65%, if you average it out, of offenders against kids are not MAPS. And they're usually targeting like teenage girls. So, there may be some attraction there because they're teenage girls. They're not little kids, right?
Right.
But in terms of MAPS, in order to help with MAPS, you need to do what I'm doing, which is basically like understand what the issue is, help MAPS to, first of all, try to destigmatize I'm not saying destigmatize sexual abuse. That is rightly stigmatized. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say, oh, you're trying to make it. No, I'm not. It's the opposite of that. But destigmatizing the sexuality itself will help MAPS to come out of the shadows and to seek help. If you're going, okay, we're trying to help
you. See like pedophiles like in a fucking alley in the shadows just coming out.
You're not trying to alienate you,
He also has not said, and this was in his Salon article, that he used to work in a school with children. Young children. He has not disclosed that, and either of these 2 documentaries must have been not a popular angle.
And a lot of times MAPS who do offend are ones who are isolated. They feel depressed. They feel all these they feel stigmatized, and they become fatalistic. They get this idea that it doesn't matter, I'm gonna, mess up anyway. Nobody cares about me, and blah blah blah. And so that's what happens.
But this is why it's not really like I think it like comparing it to a sexuality is not like really correct. It's not really right. Because the stigmatization that he's talking about is something that also kind of exists with, like, say, junkies. People like that, they feel like it's an inevitability to, like, they're going to go get high again. Something like that is going to happen, even if they've been off of it for years. It's always a fear. Alcoholics, they face the same kind of paradigm, the same kind of thing. So I think it's like calling it a sexuality just complicates it in a way that maybe, I don't know, is it necessary? Especially if you're trying to address the root of the problem and understand why it is and what could actually help people like this, right? I don't know. I don't think normalizing it and calling it a sexuality is the answer. I really don't. It's aberrant, deviant behavior. It is what it is.
Or in stress.
major stress is a factor for
Right.
MAPS. Like a lot of times what we find is MAPS who have offended were under some kind of severe family stress or stress at work or whatever too. So helping them to mitigate
And
stress.
nothing relieves stress more for a MAP is to go out and sexually abuse a child.
Okay.
Will help.
All right. Well, check out Todd's info in the description. Let us know what you think about all this in the comments, and I will see you next week.
All right, well, let's check out the comments. Let's check out the comments. See what people were saying. Said he's got a Twitter account. I'll check that out. I really appreciate how Andrew reinvented himself. Andrew wouldn't even let this guy in his house. It doesn't help that he has a client. It does kind of paint like this really funny picture. Sorry, Todd. It does. Sad to see some people hating on this guy. This takes a lot of courage. Ooh, I wonder what the replies are. I agree. He seems like a good guy who can control his impulses. God bless his heart. I mean, so does murdering someone. It takes courage to do that knowing the consequences, but it is a strange moral dilemma. You're a fucking weirdo. JWoww, shut the fuck. He's definitely not a bad human being. Remember, age of consent in the USA was 10 until 100 years ago, 7 in Delaware. Yeah, thank God. Thank God we fucking changed. This guy, Scale Daddy Mushroom King. And slavery used to also be commonly accepted. Men could beat their wives to death and no one would blink. You could beat children and so could anyone else commonly, including their teachers. Rape was rarely something people were persecuted for, etc. What kind of fucking argument is that? Good for you, Scale Daddy. I honestly can't judge this guy. He's being honest about himself. Most of us have no idea what it's like. That would suck. I would agree with that. Most of us do not know what that's like. You know? Thank God, too. Nobody. Joe Rogan. I hear DMT helps. Actually, this guy should do DMT. Guy should probably do some fucking mushrooms. Damn, this guy got dealt with a rough hand, no pun intended. It makes me glad I'm just a normal dude. MCM Lee. This dude look like the hash slinging slasher. Love how Andrew turns away when the car goes past. He doesn't want to be seen dead with him. This is a boundary pushing interview. Next level. It takes balls to openly talk about this. He's got a hook. And he's talking about maps. I'm less concerned about him having sex with kids, and I'm more concerned with him finding the secret gold of Sparta than putting that gold in stocks, and then Andrew having him do yet another episode on becoming a millionaire investor. I thought that was gonna build up to a Peter Pan reference. What a wholesome guy. I feel so bad for him. Todd, clearly I wasn't gay. Andrew, sure. Poor guy, I'm glad he's being ethical about it. I was waiting for Andrew to ask, so what happens when the kid grows up? Would you still be in love? Fair point. I was thinking the same thing. Like, let's say in an alternate universe, he's the way he is, forms an emotional and sexual relationship with a minor. And then what happens when she develops, you know? It would be a never-ending circle of him never being able to find fulfillment in another person because we all age and can't prevent it. He physically can never be happy, can never be accepted, can never be emotionally fulfilled in a romantic way. So props to him for being open and saying he unfortunately had to accept that he will never forever be lonely because he would rather die than harm a child. That has to be the most awful way to live. It's crucial we put our effort into understanding versus judging so that we can prevent the harm of children. That's the only goal in this. If we can prevent it first through this mental health gateway, then we don't have to hear more horrible stories on the news of child victims or make useless comments on social media platforms stating how an offender should be executed. That's not going to do anything, and it won't reverse a potential child's potential molestation. Sure. I think just part of his problem is, though, there's like this kind of given up, weird, like he rationalizes stuff in a way. Like he hasn't really thought a lot of this stuff through. I don't know, because like he keeps saying like, no, dude, it's the emotional component. That's really the thing. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, what emotional component? There's like, sure, you live in some sort of, you have a delusion about what it would be like to be in a relationship with a child, like how that would be emotionally fulfilling. But to suggest that it's not like deeply rooted in sex specifically, I think is disingenuous. I don't know if I buy it. Andrew is super uncomfortable. His body language is saying a lot of self-soothing things. He said that it's not about sex, it's emotional, but confessed that he only likes the prepubescent body type. No mention of emotional aspects of prepubescent girls that makes him attracted to them. 100% fresh broccoli. Thank you. Much more succinct than I was. I think this guy is harmless. He seems like he's dealing it with like every pedophile should. Come over to my barbecue, Todd. Having a birthday party for the kids. Well, let's see. Okay, well, we have another one that's, I think it's more of like a psychologist talking. It is a Vice documentary. So there's a good chance that YouTube will make me clip this out when I upload it to YouTube. But we're going to watch it here. So if you're here, lucky you. As we enter the cyber.
I wish people understood that, I mean, we generally don't like the fact that there are pedophiles either. Like, we didn't ask for this.
Oh, it's competition, really, as well, you know. The more pedophiles, the more people trying to, you know, take your relationship chances away.
It's something that a lot of people will be more comfortable ignoring, but when it's you, it's not really an option to ignore it.
Can't ignore it, can't do it, can't be done.
He's known as a non-offending pedophile, someone who has a romantic and sexual attraction to kids, but says he's never abused a child. He wants help, but getting it in the US is risky.
When I was figuring this stuff out about myself, I decided that I couldn't tell anybody because I was pretty certain that at best they would like desert me and just like I'd lose a friend or whatever, and at worst like they'd tell absolutely everybody and I'd be like,
it'd be dangerous for you.
It would be dangerous.
We've never thought about non-offending pedophiles. We focused all of our resources on after-the-fact interventions. How do we punish? How do we surveil? How do we keep track of sex offenders? What we need are interventions that can target the vast majority of sex crimes that can be prevented.
Dr. Letourneau is one of few researchers in the US focusing on preventive measures to help pedophiles. But getting them treatment is tough. Mandatory reporting laws in America require that therapists alert authorities when they suspect a pedophile is at risk of abusing a child.
If you are someone that has an attraction and you go to a therapist and you say, I have these attractions for young people, what could happen?
Any number of things could happen. Even if you've never offended, if you're sexually interested in children, you reach out to a therapist for help, they may decide that you still represent a threat and that their concerns meet the threshold for a mandatory report. I know of a child who's at the age of 15 disclosed to his school guidance counselor that he had sexual interest in young children and he wanted some help and support around that. He got kicked out of school, and they assumed, as many people do assume, that someone with sexual interest in children, that they cannot control themselves, that they will just reach out and grab the first child they see off the street and rape that child. And that's not true.
Oh boy. It's that.
This is a PSA you're not likely to see in the U.S.
No. Yeah, because we don't fuck kids in the U.S. or we don't support it. He's like, you did it again, Frederick. Urge suppressed.
Do you like children in ways you shouldn't? There is help.
The campaign was produced by
It's just a picture of a gun.
Prevention Project Dunkelfeld, one of the only places in the world that offers therapy to pedophiles.
We do not have these mandatory port laws as you have in the United States.
Yes.
This is an obstacle for prevention work because nobody would show up.
Since 2005, about 10,000 people in Germany have reached out to Dunkelfeld for help.
Is this like conversion therapy?
I like that they're doing the work to take care of like the people from their country, probably native Germans, but they just import people that could come and fuck German kids. They just allow them to run in unencumbered, millions at a time. Oh.
Are you trying to cure these people?
No, it's not possible to change sexual orientation. I never would try that.
So are you saying that pedophilia is a sexual orientation?
Exactly.
What you saying,
we have a
motherfucker?
lot of sexual
This is the prequel to Tenet.
minorities, and this is all part of this huge variety. So nobody chooses this. And as long as he not would act out, it would be very, very inhuman to judge such a person. And I would always vote to integrate him in society.
Dr. Bauer estimates that 1% of the population is pedophilically inclined, and nearly all of them are men, but not all of them offend. Dunkelfeld's treated about 1,700 since it opened.
And what does this treatment look like?
It's a kind of cognitive behavior treatment running to all the risky situations, and then we will train him to change his behavior in these situations. The other one would be pharmaceutical options. We can lower sexual urges with very effective drugs. So if it's...
Is that like chemical castration?
It's like chemical castration, yeah.
How many people have gone through this program and have not offended?
Nearly all of them.
How do you measure that?
Well, under this kind of criteria that they're talking about, in terms of the sexual orientation. Now, if you're familiar with NIGHTCAP or you're familiar with Zoobox, we have watched these documentaries about bestiality. And the same kind of like things that you're hearing here, the same kind of rationalizations for the behavior is also exhibited in those documentaries. Especially from one guy. It looks like Paul Bunyan. This guy loves to fuck his mare. He loves it. But he says these things. He talks about the emotional component, the spirituality of it. Kind of like a lot of the same things that Todd was saying. Now, granted, he doesn't feel like he should abstain from those things because he feels like they're spiritual creatures. But, yeah, I mean, would we consider that as sexuality? Or would we consider that a type of mental illness? Like, what would you call it? Is it okay to call it a mental illness? Like, why do we have to group it in with things that are just kind of more normative? Is it okay to break that out into a separate category? So that way that you can isolate it and deal with it, I suppose. When you start kind of just bringing it into like a larger, broader spectrum, then it becomes much more messy. And then when you start having kind of the acceptance of it, because the problem with, the problem with pedophilia is that like the concept of abusing a child, of psychologically damaging, physically damaging a child. That's not something like that should be taken lightly in terms of how we approach it. So I don't know.
That
by just taking the answers of them. It's subject.
Also, they tell you.
Yes.
Doctor, is that if you're just relying on them to tell you that they didn't act out as the only measurement of success for this program,
yeah,
is that enough?
As long as we do not have any other measurements, and we are working on this.
Exactly. Who is going to self-report that they committed a fucking crime? So he's like, oh, we have 100% success rate from self-reporting.
Do you feel like you were born this way?
Basically, yes. Just imagine to feel whatever you may feel for women or men, to feel that romance and sexual attraction, just not to adults, but to kids.
Ooh, Max, that's
Shit, man, I really like to dick a bitch down. So, damn, Max. Damn, you really showed me something. You really broadened my horizon. You opened my eyes, Max.
Tough, man. That's.
I know.
When did you realize that you were attracted to kids?
It was around 20. It kind of shattered my whole self-image. I didn't know at that point that there was a way out.
In 2006, Max went to Dunkelfeld for a year of treatment.
Is there something you tell yourself when you see a young girl that you're attracted to?
In therapy, I learned some strategies to make myself realize what I'm feeling is very different from what the girl is feeling. I've arrived in my development at the point where I feel mostly completely normal about kids like other people would. I obviously still have the attraction, but it's on the background.
Do you think you deserve the same rights as adults who are attracted to adults?
If you exclude having sex with kids, yes.
So you should be able to live where you want to live and work where you want to work, even if it's at a preschool or elementary school?
Basically, yes. Because everything else would constitute something like thought control.
Thought control, discrimination, being bigoted. The reason why you wouldn't want to put if this is a predilection that you have, like, you shouldn't want to put yourself in those types of situations where you may offend. Because if you're so delusional to think that you can have an emotional, spiritual connection with a kid in a romantic way, you might project that onto them. You might groom them. Maybe you do it unwittingly. Maybe you don't realize that you're doing it. But that could definitely happen. So no. People that are pedophiles, especially ones that know that they're pedophiles, should not be trying to get work at kindergartens. Shouldn't be a thing.
What does destigmatization look like?
If I'm pedophilically inclined and you will come over and will say to me, listen, please take care of my 5-year-old son. And I would say, no, I'm pedophilically inclined. And if you would judge this in the same way as you would judge the drug addict, then that would be a sign of destigmatization.
That's the world you want to live in.
And you would deal with it the same way you would deal with a drug addict. Yeah, because you wouldn't want to put like that. This is kind of what I was saying. Oh my God, I'm like a doctor, guys. They should hire me. And I'm a fucking brain dead millennial. Don't ever listen to me about anything. But I'm just saying. Prophet says, I think they could have come up with a better word than grooming. What the fuck am I supposed to call combing my kid's hair?
Yes.
You got a tough job, Doc.
Yes.
Conditioning? They'd be like, well, what am I supposed to say when I wash my kid's hair? Come on.
Correct.
We'll just call it brainwashing. Let's call it brainwashing. Watch more. That's the end of the Vice documentary, but I didn't have this one planned, but I gotta check this out. I think it is this yeah, see, it's got commentary by Opie and Anthony in it, and I don't really want that. because there's a documentary about NAMBLA. Now, if you don't know, NAMBLA is North American Man-Boy Love Association. It's actually one of the first things when I was a younger guy that I like kind of understood that they were like a community. I think this is it. NAMBLA documentary, 53 minutes. There's this other weird one. It's called Chicken Head, I think. And it's about like people that. Oh, hold on. We're taking a detour, unplanned detour. I wonder if it's not on here anymore. Let's see here. Pedodoc. Excuse the dead air, folks. I'm sorry. Oh, I gotta find it. Maybe we'll have to. I don't want to circle back to pedophilia again. I just figured since we were like kind of already on this road. What the hell is it called? It's like chicken wonk, chicken head. I'll have to find it another day, I guess, because I can't find it right now. Yeah, it's like it's a 25-minute documentary, and it's like about these like middle-aged dudes like in West Virginia. They're like, and they just talk about wanting to pick up young boys, and they're always trying to like hit on the young dudes, like from the town, and they'll like drive around and try to give them rides and shit. And all of like the kids there, they're like are aware. They're like, yeah, that's Todd. He's fucking weird, but he'll buy you a pack of cigarettes. I can't. I watched it years and years ago. But I don't know. We're gonna check out this. NAMBLA is North American Man-Boy Love Association. They are a real special group. The reason why I actually found out about them. Oh my goodness! Update on Todd Nickerson real quick before we continue. Todd Nickerson's Twitter account has been suspended. Apparently he violated Twitter's rules, which, hey, that could be anything. That could be anything, but I just saw the tab. I forgot I had the tab open. Let's see if Todd Nickerson has... You think he's popped up somewhere else with a different name? Todd Nickerson. Salon has sent Todd his cover story. Yeah, these are all very old. Yeah, but I guess he got his account news. R.I.P. Todd's Twitter account. But this is I guess a NAMBLA documentary. I don't really know. I don't know much about it. Honestly, going in a little blind. I think I know what it is. But before I got sidetracked, I knew about NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, because I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school. And there was, just like with the Catholic Church constantly, there's always pedophilia scandals going on. And I was from Massachusetts. They have it a lot in Massachusetts as well. Check out the movie Spotlight. That's what they're literally all about that. And some of that stuff was happening when we were in high school. And I found out about this because there had been a bunch of priests from Massachusetts that were caught going to NAMBLA meetings. That they were like kind of ingratiated themselves, like they were priests that went to these things. And it's called the North American Man-Boy Love Association. They advocate for underage relationships. Like, so children with full-grown men, teenagers, full-grown men. And they've tried to include themselves in the same way that we've seen with MAPS, or with Virtuous Pedophiles. They want to include themselves as a sexual orientation. They want to destigmatize. They want to normalize. the idea about being in relationships with kids. Saying that, you know, and this goes all the way back. Go look up Foucault, Derrida, these postmodern philosophers of the 50s and 60s. That's really when they kind of took off, became popular. They infected academia. This kind of stuff is all over the place when you get into the deeper rungs of sociology. This stuff is all over the place in those classes. But anyways, let's check it out. I don't really know what to expect, so we'll see what happens. This will probably be the show closer because it's kind of long. So I'm hoping for some good stuff, relatively speaking.
American boy. He looks like an all-American boy for sure. And he's just like a flower in bloom. He's at that perfect stage in which he is hermaphroditic, that is to say,
I think this is actually what I was looking for.
Neither all male or all female. Not that anybody is, of course. Everybody is some mixture of those two characteristics, but he is at the moment in that wonderful limbo between being a child and being an adolescent. That is, he is certainly an adolescent at this point, but he still has this kind of soft, feminine grace about him.
We knew he was kind of weird. Like, we was walking up, and Michael thought he knew him. He was coming through, he was walking up my house. And Michael thought he knew him, but he didn't. He said, well, y'all want to ride? We said, yeah. And so we started going up the hill.
Mike was 12, I believe, and Anthony 13 when I was driving along the road in West Virginia.
I mean, this guy's just like an openly a predator. I mean, he's fixated on the kind of like the physicality of these kids, their nymph-like presence, their kind of sex neutrality in terms of the way their bodies have formed and stuff. Like, this guy's just openly a predator.
And Mike flagged me down to give them a ride. And the wonderful thing about it was that there was no fuss at all. They both went out of their way to flirt in their own way with me, just with joyfulness. I mean, just to say, here's the play of life going on, and here is something that's not seen by others, but seen and appreciated by me and the people who are participating. We're having a little play together, a little game.
What a fucking beast. He's like, they were flirting with me. They were being nice. They were flirting. They were kids joking around. Oh, it's flirtatious. These kids wanted to fucking suck my dick. We don't know what percentage of adults are pedophiles. Nobody knows what percent of adults are pedophiles.
Were you ever in love?
No, because I don't think, I've never felt that I would be free to express any feelings that I had towards anybody.
I became sexually active when I was 8, but that was with younger boys. You know, the first boy that I went with was 7. At the time, we were best friends. And that went on for 2 years. I didn't have any relationships with an adult until I was 10.
I love them.
What is the in boys that you love?
I don't know. It's just I have all my life been attracted to younger boys. I go back from the time I was about 8 years old. I could say I wanted a little brother, and I've always just been interested in little boys.
I was flabbergasted like anybody else, but hearing this shocking type of ideas. And I investigated a little further, and I found out that lo and behold, this idea wasn't that bad as they seemed to be from far away. And then all of a sudden, all my...
What? He's like, no, I had all these secret desires, and then I repress them, I hold them inside of me, and then I meet these other pedophiles, and they say, oh no, our ego is fine. it's fine to feel this way. And I say, oh, this doesn't look so bad, so close up.
Childhood memory came back to me, and I saw myself doing those acts with other children, and I thought that they were decent acts. I thought they were wholesome acts. I enjoyed myself, and I thought we had lots of fun, and I thought of those times with fondness.
As far as what actually happened, I thought I was talking him into it, but later
Yeah, so you know that the framing of this, a lot of the people that they talk to, they're at the gay and lesbian rights rally in 1993. And these people showed up because they want to be part of this. They want to be part of this movement back then. Even back then, all the way back then. This has been going on for a long time, folks. Fucking never let your kids leave their house. They're everywhere, even in West Virginia.
Discovered that he enjoyed it a lot more than I expected, because I had been convinced by people that kids that size aren't sexual, and myself, I really didn't have a lot of strong sexual feelings at 10. But this particular person enjoyed this quite a lot. It turned out.
I feel like this is this weird thing where they try to. He's even kind of skewing away from the word. He's like, no, this is a person. He tries to age up the concept of being 10. Fucking gross, dude.
How did it go? Well, I knew he was gay. He was one of my karate instructors, and I just came on to him, and I knew what I was doing. I was fully aware of what I was doing.
Milo Yiannopoulos, everybody.
But I was very attracted to him at the time.
You felt you had the power in the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
You did.
Yeah, I felt very empowered by the relationship. I felt that I controlled the relationship. Which is a good thing for a kid, I think.
Yeah, it's super empowering.
And that also
normal and
tends
whatever.
to dispel the belief that that adults are always the ones in power in such relationships. I let him around. I was the one in power.
I'm definitely not out as far as being public about it. There are close friends of mine who know.
He's like, until right now, where I've come on camera, my full face in view. Now I'm out as a pedophile.
People I've known for years and know me well know. But as far as being out with acquaintances and companions that I have on a daily basis, I'm definitely not.
What we do know is that nobody chooses their sexual orientation, that people...
I just saw this comment. I remember you and Paul telling me about a skit you wrote where a Catholic priest starts chanting NAMBLA during a sermon. Yes. Yep, that's... That is true. That was 100% true. I can't remember all of the particulars of it. I'll have to ask Paul. He probably remembers. But yeah, because we were always thinking of skits and doing shit like that. And when we found out about NAMBLA, and we found out specifically about the story of a Catholic priest going to NAMBLA meetings, that definitely spurred our imagination.
Discover what's appealing to them. They don't decide what's appealing to them. What they have more choice or decision about is how they deal with such desires, whether they pursue them or not, or try to inhibit them, or what their attitudes are towards them.
I've been picked up where I worked. I've been picked up on the street. I've been called up on the telephone and asked to come in.
How many times have you been in prison?
Huh?
How many times?
I've been in prison twice. Really, I just don't try. I try to avoid boys.
How do you do it?
And this guy looks like you're like your conservative grandpa.
Just avoid them.
And sometimes you can't?
Sometimes I can't, right. But pretty much I do.
Pretty much.
Live by myself and to myself.
And you're willing to sit in jail for your passion?
I don't have a choice.
I hadn't done anything. I'd never done anything, but I'd always heard things on the news and everything saying that anybody who liked boys sexually would be a monster and would kill these kids or would do these horrible things. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stop myself from doing that. And so I had a war with myself for about 6 years. I went to therapy in many different places around the country. And finally, I started realizing that they weren't being genuine with me. They really duped me. I was very well indoctrinated into the system.
I knew it was kind of risky that the FBI could have my name on a list or something, but the way I was getting so sick of the way things were going, it was worth the risk.
The North American Man-Boy Love Association was formed in 1979 as a support group for men who are sexually attracted to boys. Over the years, its membership grew from 24 to 1,500 members. During the day, Bob is a government lawyer. In the evenings, he manages the NAMBLA's national office.
Of course he's a fucking government lawyer. Of course. Oh, I wonder, no weird fucking connections there. And of course he looks like this. He looks like a fucking serial killer. He looks like a John Wayne Gacy.
The standard line is it's a political and educational organization. Most of what we do is print a bulletin. Bill Handels is the editor of the bulletin. This is for the person who handles the prisoner mailing. That is, we send out free subscriptions to those prisoners who are able to receive them, which is probably about half the people that want them. Most of the prisons in the West, for instance, won't take our bulletin, but they won't take any gay publication.
They won't take any gay publication. They won't take any gay publication. That's how he's choosing to describe it to you. And mind you, he's a lawyer. I'm sure those words were carefully chosen. Yeah, just completely normal stuff in NAMBLA. It's just a support group, dude. They're just there to support each other, you know? And print fucking lewd pictures of kids. Even the tape can't handle it. This VHS tape's like, no! It's Timothy Chalamet. Fuck it, this is making me sick. Look at this Bernie Sanders lookalike. Huh? Did you see this one, Todd? Beautiful kids. Beautiful boys. What? Like, what the fuck? Subscribe. Hold on, I gotta go back a second. What the fuck?
Substituted work with NAMBLA for actually seeking out relationships with boys or having relationships with boys. Being very active with NAMBLA and having sort of a public profile, it would be suicidal to actually have a sexual relationship, an illegal sexual relationship with a boy in this society right now.
So I just look at pictures of children and I write articles and I talk about, the future, and I masturbate a lot.
This is a person who's writing us for about the third time. He's either desperate or very, very pushy. Dear NAMBLA, I wrote your organization earlier this month requesting information on purchasing videotapes, magazines, and other materials, but all I got was political information, which is okay, but way too much, and information on novels, which would take 2 months before I'd even get them. I thought you wanted new members and supporters, and I also thought NAMBLA was supposed to help us boy lovers to get what we couldn't get in other places, materials. We have a standard letter that we send.
So some people, they're stupid probably, but they think they're like, oh, dude, this is a legit organization where we could get child pornography from.
Dear friend, please be advised that police and postal inspectors from this and other countries make a living by entrapping boy lovers who are desperate for the kind of materials you inquire about it, etc., etc.
Look at this fucking sweaty pig demon. How else do you even describe this motherfucker? I hope he's paid well. Or whatever. Do you think he's doing this for ideological reasons?
I mean, there's no other position we can take. It's difficult to know whether these inquirers are genuine or police agent.
Would it fucking matter if it was genuine? If it was a genuine request for child pornography? They're like, listen, we just can't know. I bet they're on the dark web now.
Or both. Probably there's a mixture, and a lot of them are just desperate and rather ignorant.
See, he's okay. This is a safe hug because these guys they're not each other's types. They're too old for each other. So this is a safe hug. This is just a friendship hug, okay?
I don't know if I could be able to do it with you.
Oh, Peter. How many of the boys, for whom they were then in prison, came to visit the prisoner who had supposedly molested them?
See? This is the real fucked up shit. Like this is what we're talking about. We're talking about this weird fucked up rationalization, mental disorder, completely like, oh no, the abused child, he loved me. He fucking loved me. No, I was abusing him for like 5 years and he loved me.
As an expression of their affection for the person with whom they had a loving and consensual relationship.
Thank you for taking that moral and beating it over the head into the opportunity to stage orgies has not yet occurred. Mm-hmm. And probably NAMBLA won't be around when it becomes possible to do so.
Look at this fucking demon, dude. He reminds me of that guy, what's his name? Fucking Barney Frank.
This is the poet Allen Ginsberg.
Sweet boy, give me your ass. Let me kiss your face, lick your neck, touch your lips, tongue, tickle tongue end, nose to nose.
So Allen Ginsberg was at a NAMBLA conference in 1989. Allen Ginsberg, you may know, is part of the Beat Poet era. Jack Kerouac, Burroughs, Ginsberg, others. I was never a huge fan of this era, so I don't read them. But that's where he comes from. And Burroughs is the same way. He's a fucking lecherous old bitch too. Oh, so fucking disgusting.
Nose, quiet question. Ever slept with a man before?
In Europe.
And this is something like, listen, in the gay community, this is not like an uncommon thing. It's even very mainstream that they talk about this stuff. There's a movie that is an adaptation of like somebody's personal memoir. I can't remember their name off the top of my head. It's called Running with Scissors. And there is a relationship in that movie of like a 15-year-old boy engaging in a gay relationship with a much older man. And the guy basically takes his virginity. And it is like tries to make this argument that like, well, the 15-year-old, he came on to me, he wanted it. Who am I to deny him this? Who am I, the fucking adult with the fully formed frontal lobe? Who am I to deny a child something? So it's like a PG-13 movie. I don't even think it's rated R. It could be rated R. I'm not 100% sure. But that shit is totally in there. It's just something that is kind of mainstream. It's a story that a lot of like gay men have in their past and their lives about being groomed, and they have some sort of weird paternal relationship with an older gay man. And men, if nothing else, even maybe for evolutionary reasons, are predatory. Dudes like to fucking bust that nut.
Since the late 50s, support groups for pedophiles have been popping up to actively fight the age of consent laws. The Dutch have established the most liberal consent laws in the world. The official age of consent in the Netherlands is 16.
This is why Austin Powers' dad is so up in arms about the Dutch. They share a border with the fucking Dutch.
Yet adults are not prosecuted for engaging in sexual relations with a child above the age of 12, as long as the child's parents and his social worker approve.
Parents and social workers. So the state is even involved in Deutschland. The state is fucking involved. The state's like, yeah. How old is he? 12? How old are you? 47? Well, he says he's okay with it. I guess it's okay then. Hey, how does he feel about cutting his dick off and wearing a dress?
How many high schools are there around here?
Oh, there's Clinton.
Not enough.
There's one science, and then beyond there is another high school. All within about 5-10 minutes walk of each other. This is very familiar. I moved here so that I would have a minimum of traveling time and could devote most of my time to work. Oh, this brings back memories. This seems to be a problem on whether sex education.
This guy's got strong Woody Allen vibes. Just saying.
Should occur in the schools, and somehow it's not a problem in other countries. When I taught in Scotland, it was part of the science course. I like teaching because I like boys. And as I said before, liking boys doesn't mean that you want to have sex with them. Okay, it's much broader than that.
I don't know, I kind of think it's a disgrace, but then again, we never know who else. I mean, we never know if other teachers are like KKK members and stuff. So, I mean, we don't know about their past, and just because we know about one, you know? So, I mean, I think it's his business, but still, it's kind of disgusting. He works in a school with kids, and he's like...
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't be able to. If you're an out-and-out fucking NAMBLA member or whatever, maybe there should be some sort of suspicion there. Maybe it should disqualify you. Because it's like having an aberrant belief. If these guys are advocating publicly for lowering the age of consent laws, if you're part of an organization that does that, you might lead one to believe that you might have a sexual attraction to your students.
A child molester, but that's my opinion.
Don't you think it's a matter of concern to parents that someone who teaches their children would spend hours with them every day believes that what we consider child molesting should be legalized?
I'm busy. You're interrupting my routine. I'm going shopping. Thank you very much.
News 4 has learned that the Board of Education, the Inspector General's office, and...
He's like, nailed it, Chris. You avoided him again. Once again, evaded. He's getting off. He's just like, that fucking piece of shit.
Even a former
Question
principal here at the Bronx High School of Science have known about Meltzer's NAMBLA affiliation.
But he shouldn't be teaching. Why not? Because he molested 12-year-olds. How do you know? They said it on TV.
Parents that someone who teaches their children would spend hours with them every day believes that what we consider child molestation.
If you cannot judge a person by what he does, when he does it, but only by his thoughts and by his private activities, then you can't hire anybody. There'll be no one left to do anything.
Okay, so he's trying to make a principled argument about thought crime and about what you do in the privacy of your own home. Well, if what you do in the privacy of your home violates the law, then we have a problem, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're doing it in the privacy of your own home. Thought crimes, I think he's being a little disingenuous. I mean, not all thought crimes involve... I mean, I don't know. It's not, obviously, it's not against the law to look at one of your students and get a boner. Like, that's not illegal. Technically. Although maybe, I don't know, maybe it is. If you pop a boner in the middle of the class, would that be would that be against the law? I don't know. Let's see what he says. Will he elucidate us? Will we learn something new?
Well, one can't be angry at that. One can only say that it's sad that that at least the current society's mentality is such that this kind of argument works.
The whole thing about Mr. Meltzer, it's much ado about nothing. It's a load of crap. He didn't do anything. He's not an active pedophile as far as we know, and there's really no point in persecuting him for it.
Well, I wonder, did they, maybe I missed it, but did they say how everyone knows that he's a pedophile? Did he just come out as a pedophile? Is that what the issue was? Because he became an activist?
Believes in a concept, then you can't persecute him for that. That's in your head. Then we might as well start persecuting everyone else, who has...
No, and broadly speaking, I cannot disagree with this. In terms of thought crime, I don't want to start going after people because they had an aberrant thought. But this doesn't seem like it's just a thought. It's like it's a lifestyle that he would like to act upon. I think it takes it a little into a different realm, honestly. It's not some sort of fleeting moment in his life. It's not some sort of weak thing that happened to him. It's a constant, it's a consistent part of it all. Right? I mean, that has to, you have to take that into consideration.
Concepts we don't agree with.
Dear Mr. Meltzer, please be advised that effective immediately, you're not to enter the Bronx High School of Science until further notice. Should you have any questions relative to these instructions, this kind of notice really hurts. And when I can look out my window and see the school, and it's like Moses looking across to the promised land.
But don't persecute me for thought crimes. Here's some cool art I did. Check it out. Fuck. That was an intense cut. Get your motor running. Hit it all the back roads. Looking
Leland
for
has
an
graduate
info.
degrees in law and philosophy. He has been a Mormon representative in Texas and a missionary in Hong Kong. In India, he photographed child pornography and was put in a California prison for 5 years.
Good. Good.
He is driving to his cabin retreat in the mountains of West Virginia.
Rachel, can I give you a little of this?
No.
Just a little bit.
No. Keep them plenty of.
What would you have for dinner, though? I mean, you better have some of this for your dinner, because we're...
He was, especially friends, made friends with everybody.
This is true.
He took me to get my apples at the orchard, and we went on down to see the canaries and then to see the birds, the ducks.
In general, there are lots of boys that precisely want to do that. That is what they want to do. They make it clear, and they simply do it. They don't. That is to give a blowjob. That's what to give head, as the saying goes. That's what they want to do, and they do it. That is, this boy simply did it in a magnificently gentle, tender sort of way, in which you could sense he was putting his whole heart and life into this experience. That is what was so exceptional about it, and it produced a remarkable sensation, and I may say a rather speedy climax, in spite of the fact that it was being done in such a gentle way.
I mean, this guy is like creep number one. Creep number one. Oh, God, this is so fucking... Prophet says, I gotta go to bed after this, for God's sake. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Next week, we're gonna do a lighthearted nightcap, because we've had a couple weeks of just the darkest shit.
The fantasy, what the thoughts come into your mind in such a time?
Curiously, the most powerful feelings that are evoked are religious feelings. I want to sing praises to the Almighty
non-refundable.
Created anything so beautiful, so spectacularly wonderful.
Look at this. He's like this fucking educated cunt, and he's like, oh yeah, the beauty of this child, this boy giving me a fucking sensual blowjob, then I came super fast. I mean, just complete deviant, just complete fucking. This is when people say, like, no, maybe you should just fucking do away with them. I gotta put this on YouTube. I ain't gonna say too much spicy, but do away with people like this. This is who they're talking about, because this guy is not just that he does it. He doesn't feel bad about it. He's rationalized it. He's romanticized it. He's talking about it in terms of being a piece of art that he experienced. Blah!
This is what is going on in me.
Anthony sat down next to me, and Leland was sitting there staring at Anthony. And that gave me the creeps. I mean, he was just staring, looking at him like he was a piece of meat, up and down, because Anthony just had a pair of shorts on.
Yeah, because it's not. Exactly. See, this is the thing. It's not spiritual. It's not romantic. It's not. It's just like a fucking horny dude in a fucking bar who's had one too many shots, and he sees some fucking hot piece of ass coming in the door, and you're fucking and you stare at him because you're too drunk to fucking wait, like get up, and it's completely sexual. It's completely fucking just your basest inhibitions just fucking gone. You can't operate. You can't do anything. And you're there, and you're gonna try to make a move. And you're gonna sound like a fucking asshole. That's what that dude's like. Just like that's his natural state of being, is to be that horny.
Making excuses to pull up his shirt and show me his belly. And
this is another thing. They always project this courtship. Oh, he was trying to show me his belly. They got in my car and they flirted with me. Which I believe is this same dude that said that about those other kids. Like, it's always just like, no, they're courting. This is just, they're doing this themselves. Like, I have no power over what another person does.
A highly flirtatious way to any ordinary boy lover such as myself, a very exciting and appealing way.
Just the average boy lover, that's just, they just, obviously these little kids, they just innately intuit that this is what the average boy lover would be into. And they're trying to catch you as if they're a honey trap.
Our 12-year-old boy went up and met him, and he shook his hand, and we didn't think anything of it, but Jacob had to pull his hand away before Leland released his grip. My feeling is that he was feeling Jacob out, you know, to see if Jacob was accepting to that kind of behavior.
He had picked up my son and a friend of his, and they were walking from my house to his friend's house, and he just picked them up, stopped, pulled over, asked them if they wanted a ride, and they accepted.
He's asking us questions like all kinds of stupid questions, and every time we'd say something to him, he'd take out a piece of paper and write it down.
Mike on one occasion and Anthony on another flirted with me, I thought, in a very flagrant but wonderful way. By flagrant, I mean they made it completely obvious that they were flirting in a sexual way or talking in a sexual way because this was their nature, because they were having a good time, because they understood that someone appreciated this aspect of their life, of their being.
This is so hard to talk about.
Yeah, just completely normal stuff, guys. Completely normal. Above board.
I mean, the thought of him living and waiting, you know, for your child, waiting for you, maybe. What if you?
His name is D'Artagnan, and yes, I hope so. You would hope so, because this guy he's not just he's a really devious predator. He is the stereotype of what should I look out for? But it's that old trucker pervert dude though. He's another example of holy shit, fuck, you can't trust anybody. Good thing I don't. Everyone's a pedophile until they prove to me otherwise. That's how I live my life. That's my code.
Got mad at your kid because he did something, you know, and you grounded him. You know, so here he is, he's
look
feeling
at him.
bad.
Look at this guy. Look at what he's wearing.
And here comes along Leland Stevenson to go, oh, poor Michael, you know, and I think that's how they work. You know, they prey on these children and how they can stand up and tell people what they believe in and that there's nothing that you can do about it. I don't understand our judicial system, that's for sure.
There's another bakery down there.
Thanks.
Italian Food Center, sandwiches and catering. Okay.
Kids love sandwiches. Let's check in there.
A little bit, yeah. I'll certainly eat something. Well, there's, I don't see too much. Looks bakery-esque in there for sure. Somebody gonna call you out?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Get off.
So what happened?
What? You made the phone ring.
Oh, you made the phone ring. Oh, well, let's see how you did that.
Oh, like seriously. I mean, it's almost it's like he's laying it on a little thick right now. He's like, oh, there's cameras. Let me show you how I would approach a boy.
You're just texting Clark. No, you can't get in trouble for doing that.
No.
This again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, not bad.
You answer it.
Hey, how can I get the secret?
Dial 660 and the next number will
660 and what's the rest?
The worst episode of NIGHTCAP I've ever seen. That's fair. The subject is definitely the worst. And I've seen them all. The most dedicated Zoobox fan. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't, this is where we ended up. Send me videos. We'll watch those instead next time.
The last 4 digits of that phone number.
Of that phone. 660 plus the last 4 digits of that phone. And that'll do it.
Yeah, but you
Very
can't
good.
take anybody out.
Oh, goodness,
You
okay.
don't do it to the phone.
That'll be our secret then.
No, not on radio.
He was so eager to tell me when his birthday was, and he was going to be 15 in less than a month on the 1st of December. And this is what life is about. This is what real life is about. I would say that he was in bloom, and that's it. The flower is responding to one.
Look at what he's doing, though. Look what he's doing. Oh my God, this guy is sick. Fuck, and he's got like a psychological problem where he's like he feels like it's all meaningful and all purposeful. Prophet says, usually I'm hard as a diamond by this point in Nightcap. Now my dick just itches in a really burny way. Well, that's good, actually. I would say, considering relative to subject matter, I think your dick feels exactly the way that it should.
Warmth. That is, I as a human being am bathing him in a certain kind of celestial warmth.
He can't even get the words out.
He feels that, and he responds to that, and he thinks, oh, how nice, how wonderful that there's someone there who is appreciating what I am and who I am.
He's like, and then I came on his face. I was like, what the fuck, dude?
With Jason, my first aim would be to get a feeling for his psychological space, which I may say,
oh my God,
I did.
No, you may say this is like some awful fucking thing to watch. Okay, you need to watch this. You fucking need to see these dudes, because this is something that is being. This is from the fucking 1993. Okay, think about today. Think about what's going on in these communities and what is being pushed on people and the kinds of people that get involved in your kids' education and all that stuff. Like, these are the type of people that are there. These are the type of people that work in activist groups trying to normalize this stuff and trying to like bring like about like this idea that kids have just agency from the age of 4 to whatever to figure out their sexuality, and we as adults should respect that. There's a hugely weird sexual component to that, and like it's people like this that are actually at the forefront of this. Why wasn't this man arrested at any point? He was arrested. He spent 5 years in prison. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the guy. I think early on in the documentary, they kind of briefly say that. They go over it very quickly. But yeah, he did go to prison. I believe he went to prison for offending for 5 years. And then they have this other guy, the guy that had like the trucker hat on, the old man that was at the gay lesbian rally, that went to jail for twice. And I think he went to jail for 2 years each time because, you know, he's just who he is.
I was talking to him while I was with him. I was attempting to evaluate the degree to which he is neurotic.
Most of the persons that I've worked with who have offended against children, I didn't feel did this with any kind of malicious intent at all. I think some of them didn't see this developing. They were drawn into the relationships in ways they didn't recognize themselves.
Drawn into relationships in ways they didn't recognize themselves. They're projecting that onto the situation. It doesn't have anything to do with reality, as we're seeing with this, the sweater guy, we'll call him. Like, he's completely, like, just fantasizing that this is what is being done, this is what he's involved in, this is what is being said, when it's very clearly just some sort of innocent interaction with, like, a young kid talking to a fucking weird adult, joking around.
I saw others who genuinely fell in love with the child. It was really a romantic attachment. I think few of them...
Yeah, what does that mean, clinical psychologist?
...behave this way simply for sexual activity.
I was walking along...
They keep going back to this, and the clinical psychologist has said this. You know, how is it that the dipshit at Vice was able to ask a more insightful question than any of these motherfuckers about the nature of how they report these things, how they report their experiences, and how honest are they being? Like, what are we talking about? You're just going to take somebody that has this kind of a problem and you take him at face value. Oh, they tell you, hey, that's what they say. You know, that's what they say. So I guess we're going to accept that.
Beach on one occasion and met a boy in his early teens who was friendly, open, appealing, and who was very responsive to my friendship. That is, not only was his space open, he wanted it to be open. He wanted to share his life with me. So in the course of our friendship, we went on a camping trip arranged by him, in which the intent was to achieve intimacy. This was his idea. And
good thing. I mean, look, you just have no agency as an adult. Like, you can't stop this. You can't say, hey, this is inappropriate, this is wrong. No, you can't do that. Oh, an impulsive teenager thinks he knows what the fuck is going on. Nah, there's nothing you can do, man. Nothing you can do. I guess you just have to go with the flow. Wouldn't want to offend this young man. After he goes through all the trouble of, you know, booking a camping site.
In order to further this idea, he arranged that the sleeping bags would be zipped together so that there would be no barrier to the creation of this experience. Now,
like, he can barely get through this. He's like gulping. He's reliving this in his mind right now, and it's making me kind of queasy, making me sick. I'm not even kidding. I feel sick watching this. More than I have felt about anything I've ever watched on Nightcap. I think we've reached the top of a kind of mountain.
With appropriate affection and fondling and whatnot, we passed the night, and on awakening in the morning, he positioned himself in such a way that nature would take its course, and he would experience within himself a part of the body of his friend. And so, laying as he did on his side and producing the natural consequence of this event, I may say that this was sufficiently stimulating that no lubricant was required. That is, nature or life simply produced its own for this occasion.
The fuck? Dude, like,
he
just. Oh, I need a second. Wow. I guess maybe he's already gone to jail for this. Maybe this is what he went to jail for. He's like, hey, you know, double jeopardy, dude. Like, whatever. I can tell the world now. I've already been to fucking jail for this. Oh, God.
Experienced what he wanted to experience, and I certainly on that occasion experienced something that was very precious and fulfilling to me as well.
I'd probably kill him. Honest, I probably would, if he would have bothered my kids. That's why one of the reasons I wanted him away from here, because he wouldn't seek any help to stop this problem that he has. And if he would have got a hold of my kids, it wasn't any good to kill him or 100 of them then. So that's why I was trying to just kind of preventive medicine, you might say.
And see, this guy is like, you know, like the way they position this, they find this local yokel dude, and they try to make this guy look like a kind of a bigot. Oh, look at this dumb redneck who just can't accept. Look how violent and vile he is. Look what he's saying about Sweater Man.
Getting him out of town now.
But whenever people start
shooting at him with rifles around here. I told him he better get out of here before he got his killing done.
I had, of course, various kinds of threats of death. It seemed that the universe was saying it was time to move on, at least for a while. I'm eager to bring this back another day, another time.
Why? Like, see, this is another part of like the kind of disturbed pathology. Like he's like, I need to bring this. I need to come back here and fuck with people again. Why? Just on a pragmatic level, just fucking move somewhere. Just fucking move somewhere. Then nobody knows who you are. Sweater guy.
In ancient Greece, it was common for mature men to mentor young boys, teaching them the arts or philosophy, while also engaging in sexual activity.
Yeah, it was not common. Saying it's common is a complete fucking misrepresentation. It was the intelligentsia, it was the leadership, it was the academics, it was the royalty. They would abuse boys. That was the thing. 100% sure. And they rationalized it by saying, we are teaching about life, we are teaching about every aspect of life, and this is part of that. And they used that as a pretext to rape young boys. That's actually what happened. It was not commonplace. Not everybody, your average person living out in the world in Greece was not out fucking kids.
With them. Sexual games between students and teachers were said to enhance the bond between them and thus facilitate learning. In Sparta, military tradition dictated that soldiers bring their young boy trainees to practice and battle. A soldier's courage was thought to be strengthened by his desire to defend his young lover and be a role model. Presence.
This is true. This is true. This is a thing, but we wouldn't consider this good or normal because it happened. They conditioned these kids. They brainwashed both of these people. You have the adult Spartan men that are all about honor, dignity, their job, told by basically the state, indoctrinated into this worldview and doing this thing and doing this to young boys and vice versa. Not a good thing. Like, their aim was not about, like, they didn't even care about that stuff. They just knew that a sexual component deepens somebody's bond. For better or worse.
Were given as rewards to the heroes of Sparta and Thebes. In Sicily, on Mount Eris, in the sanctuary of Aphrodite, boys served as prostitutes in the temples. In Delphi, boys were made to dance in front of Apollo's temple. The Romans, while generally disapproving of homosexuality, considered boys to be sexual beings. Nero, emperor of Rome between 54 and 68 AD, derived so much pleasure from his relationship with Sporos, a 12-year-old boy, that he married him in a public wedding. Following Nero's suicide in 68 AD, Otho inherited the throne as well as the boy. Like the warriors of Sparta and Thebes...
Yeah, this sounds kind of fucking awful, doesn't it? Doesn't all this shit kind of sound fucking awful?
Samurai warriors traveled and fought with their young apprentices. The young boys would learn the arts of sword fighting, horseback riding, and lovemaking. As late as the 1940s, the Itoro, Sambia, and Kaluli tribes of New Guinea practiced sex with children as a part of the traditional coming-of-age ceremony. Tribal elders were required to insert their semen into the youth's body. Semen was considered more potent than mother's milk and believed to enhance masculinity.
So, hey, it's just a normal thing. You know, I mean, they did it in fucking tribes in Africa in the 1940s. Let's put this into context, guys. Let's broaden out the conversation. Yeah, I think, you know, maybe it's cool to say we've moved past those things. And we have for a while. Just staggering. I don't understand why the documentary, the documentary itself, the documentarians are like taking almost a defensive position about what we just watched, because that was obviously the most like extreme section, the most honest section, the most honest revelations we have seen thus far. So they need to broaden it out. They're like, oh, he's an educated man. Like, they have all these little things that are in there that are in your head, working in your subconscious. And then they decide to give you a history lesson after that. I wonder why. Are they trying to actually just like, oh, let's just make a fair case for something like this? I don't think so. Excuse me, you don't fool me.
God calls homosexuality and lesbianism a horrible sin, but he wants to save you.
I can say that apropos of the occasion, it has many fond memories associated with it, in which boys have gotten to know the car and gotten to know me.
What a fucking creep. Holy shit. I'm angry. I'm like upset.
We're happy to be here. We feel that historically we are part of this movement for liberation.
Consensuality is the key. And unfortunately, I think that, being a survivor of sexual abuse, there's really kind of a thin line with power dynamics with older and younger people. But that doesn't mean that, at age 5, I couldn't have made my own decision, or whatever, 12.
Really? A fucking a sexual abuse survivor says, like, oh, at 5, I could have decided I wanted to have sex with a fucking adult. No, you can't. You cannot do that. I mean, even to say, like, at 18, it's like an arbitrary age. Yeah, but it's also based on some sort of, like, psychological and also physiological development. Like, there is something to be said about that in terms of like how you were able to process information, how you were able to think. To suggest at 5 or 12 that you can actually consent to something is fucking insane. It's about as insane as saying that a horse wants you to fuck them. In my opinion.
I, Stormy Waltz, do pledge that it is okay for me to be on TV talking about what I didn't know.
If anybody looks at them and looks at us, then they'd have to say, well, it's all part of the rainbow, all part of the...
See, this is the project of these people. And that goes all the way from back in the fucking 90s, from 1979, actually, when NAMBLA starts, all the way till today. This is the project, is to be included in those movements and to be a letter added to that acronym. I'm not fucking kidding. Like, that's what it is. That's what they're doing. And they're doing it for completely lascivious reasons. This guy is a complete piece of shit. This guy is a predator. He's a child molester. Like, wow. Like, I saw this years and years ago, but it is still, like, coming back now and watching it, fucking shocking, frankly.
The possibility of people living peacefully together, and that's what we're looking for.
But you understand that there isn't, that us or anybody else who's in this entire march today wants to have anything to do with those people back there.
We're not with those people. We're not with those people. We're not with those people.
We don't want to be connected.
We don't want to be. We don't want to be associated. I'm an incest survivor.
What do you think about it?
These people are unfortunately borderline criminal behavior, and it is not representative of all of our community. They shouldn't be with us. They should be doing their own thing.
Everyone needs...
I love the cut. I love that cut. Like, hold on, I gotta scroll back because that was a hilarious cut.
Unfortunately, they're borderline criminal behavior, and it is not representative of all of our community. They shouldn't be with us. They should be doing their own thing.
Look at this. Look at this dude. Hey? Oh my god. Somebody's got to sense of humor in the editing bay.
And freedom to be. As long as they don't act on what they believe, and that is to have sex with children, then they have a right to be here.
Oh, they have a right to speak. You can say and advocate whatever the fuck you want, okay? You can. But there are people in here that are not just talking about it. It's not some intellectual exercise. And also they're advocating for being able to do with it. Or being able to do it, rather. Sorry. I'm like fucking half a bottle of rye deep. Forgive me.
What you do about this, man?
What would I do about it? I think the best thing to do about it is just to watch you guys very carefully and ignore the fact that you have issues, because children are not yours.
So children are their own, are they?
Children are their own, and they don't belong to you, and you don't need to have a campaign to get them.
That lady is 100% correct. This is about legalizing predatory behavior. It has nothing to do with relationships. It has nothing to do with meaningful relationships. Like, that is a fucking complete fantasy that exists inside of their heads. It's not real. It's not real. They try to sell it as that. That lady got that dude dead to rights.
Business comes first. Yeah. They think there's a buck out there.
They don't seem to understand that there's more bucks with straight people, more bucks in a straight person's pocket than there are gays, but just by the numbers. Okay.
Right now, I think we're at the very turning point of the homosexual revolution has gone to its peak, and now it's starting to take the curve down. They realize the importance of NAMBLA to their cause because they're all dying of AIDS. They don't reproduce children, so they are forced to recruit children. And the best way of recruiting children is to have them broken in, as it were, by child molesters.
I don't know about you,
It's pretty outrageous.
but when I was growing up, if there was any man, adult, talking to a young child about having sex with him, that person wouldn't be in the neighborhood anymore.
Right.
Yeah, it's like people kind of value the innocence of children. Didn't act like it was some sort of fucking game.
Yeah, I think that children should be treated in a different way in this society. I think that children are human beings that need respect, love, and recognition. And
It has nothing to do with them sucking your dick, sir. All of those things are true, and none of them have to do with fucking having sexual relationships with an older man. None of it. None of it. I mean, just the fucking audacity of these people. It's these fucking childless, lonely, fucking perverted old men. You are not respecting the child if you not let them make these decisions for themselves to come to my house, to come to my studio and let me paint them. Let me paint them. As Saint Valentine with his dick out.
I think they should be able to develop the way which you want to develop as a human being, as their essence should develop. Okay, be developed.
And the essence it comes into play when I pull out my Big Johnson and I come on their faces. And this is the essence of me, and I give it to them, and then they see the world differently, mostly a little gummy and foggy because of all the cum.
How
do they play
I
the
make
fucking
myself
Lolita
attractive
music?
to boys? Okay, I answered it by being yourself. You don't have to make yourself attractive to boys. You're just what you are, and boys react to you as another person would, and it's personal. It's nothing to do with age. It's nothing to do with you being attractive, trying to be attractive. Where are the boys? Boys are everywhere. You don't have. There's no one single place. There's the mall, the supermarket, the street, the sports event. You just.
He's like, they're everywhere. Listen. The world is my garden. The world is my garden, and I will pick a flower from any beautiful garden that I come across. You see.
To be friends with boys, you don't have to think about sex. Even just think about friendship. Okay. If sex will come, fine. If it doesn't will come, then you remain friend. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how you feel, Rodrigo. Fucking unreal.
Renato is an Italian teacher. On his free time, he likes to paint.
Of course he's a teacher. Of course he is. Why wouldn't he be? Perfect profession. This right here, it completely blows up all of the arguments that they make. All of the intellectual arguments. This is completely about grooming. This is completely predatory. This idea like, oh, you'll be friends with them, and if sex doesn't happen, you're just whatever. You're just friends with them. That is not at all. I don't think that would be acceptable to these fucking perverts at all. I don't. I really don't.
Times will change, and your oppression will end. If you're a man, be safe, be brave, and above all, be proud to be a boy lover.
Why would you be proud? What is there to be? Is there a reason to be proud of some sort of innate, uncontrollable sexuality that you have? Like, do you get to claim pride for something that you can't control? This is something I've always had a problem with when it comes to this shit. I mean, even just talking about like gay, lesbian, trans, whatever. It's just like, what if that's who you are? Like, you can accept like pride for that. Like, I don't know. It's like when I talk to people throughout my life, and people that I've met, they're all like, hey dude, sorry I'm an asshole. I'm from Massachusetts. You're like, go fuck yourself. Fuck you. You're from Massachusetts, so that gives you the green light to just be a prick. Go fuck yourself. Oh no, dude, sorry, I'm Irish. I get crazy when I drink. I'm Latin. I got a fiery temper. Go fuck yourself.
If you are so brave, why don't you answer the phone, Renato? We know you are there. Do not be afraid. Be brave. Are you afraid of us?
It's Antonio Banderas from Interview the Vampire. That's who's calling him right now. Would you like to come to the dark masquerade?
Okay, pussy. You fuck.
I supposed to feel bad for this fucking dude? Did you hear his fucking incoming, like the message when people call him? Why would I feel bad for him?
I've never been a child molester in my life. I've never been arrested, trialed, or even indicted for any kind of crime. Not
I
only
just
sexual,
advocate
but
for
even
it.
parking. Correct.
I just
Parking
advocate
and,
for it. I just
parking
talk to
car.
the people
I've never been
that want to
then
fuck
in
the
trouble with
boys,
the law.
you know?
And these slanderous things that I found home, when I came home, I found it. And it's, I'm not a child molester, I've never been.
So what do? You're just waiting around for the utopia to develop where you can just fuck kids. You just fuck young boys. You're a boy lover, dude. Be proud of it. You know, okay? If you're a young boy, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of the creepy middle-aged men that will approach you. We will buy you a hot soup. We will get you a shot of heroin. And we will be together.
Child molester, I will never be a child molester, and I'm against child molester. Okay, because
Well, what do you think he thinks child molesting is? Is it when they don't consent? They're too dumb to consent, so that's when you become a child molester? It's only when they come onto you. Then it's fine. Then it's okay. That's like a beautiful mare backing up to your crotchal region.
I'm a child lover, a boy lover, okay? And then we love and molestation don't go together. I wish boys well think good things, not horrors and not violence and not ugly things like such as this.
You see, my attitude is, I saw them as very pathetic, very sad when they came out of their meeting June 6th. And we have photos of them, and they were shamed. There were about 75 of us marching behind them, yelling out, baby rapers, and all the windows were lifting up, and they were passing by a schoolyard, which is a typical scene where they like...
The background, Whitney Houston's Fucking I Will Always Love You is playing. And that's giving me life.
To pick up children, and their heads were down, and they knew they got caught. They knew they were doing wrong, okay? I felt no anger for these people. I felt sad for these sick people. But, on the other hand, if ever I caught any of them in the act, if I was just, let's say, fortunate
Bingo,
enough,
bango,
I would
dango,
take
then
no
done.
prisoners. And that's a promise.
It's like to ask to a heterosexual man, what does he find attractive in a woman? Or it's like saying somebody, you know, I like shortcake, strawberry shortcake. Why do you like a strawberry shortcake instead of an apple pie? It's very difficult. I don't know. I would try by saying that the freshness of their mind, the nimbleness of their bodies, the way in which they move, they act, the gracefulness of them.
My soul spirit being freed, because adults are so, they have to stay within their little norm and perfectness, and they never can show their enthusiasm for life. So I like to get out whenever I can and
hang
show
out
my
with the
enthusiasm
kids.
for life.
What a fucking dirtbag. Like, all of the people they've profiled are literally, they just exhibit the most basic signs of predatory behavior. There's nothing that you can say to defend any of this. That Todd Nickerson dude is a fucking tip of the iceberg. Like, this is... These guys are like if Todd Nickerson was honest.
I don't really want to go over to the the playground because there's a lot of people there, a lot of mothers. All they need is one reason to say.
Yeah, because a homeless guy watching up, fucking skulking around their kids is disconcerting. I know, because it happens where I live. And I have to be like, hey, dude, go be a crackhead somewhere else, please.
That if I touch this, if I don't even touch a kid, they can say that I touched this kid, and then I go to jail, I get arrested. So it's like, pure bullshit. I don't want to be around.
I'd really like to, but I didn't do it. Yeah, so I just walk around the block of the Boys Club of New York.
He's probably thinking about the
looking for
erection
strange
that I'm getting right now. But it's he's not thinking about it, but he knows that it's going on, or maybe he's getting one. I don't know. Something like that.
So he draws
Chuck is an artist.
Boys and gets bonus.
He feels there needs to be an alternative to NAMBLA's methods of doing things.
What does that look like down there?
Where?
Is this an illegal drawing or what? Oh my God. I'm drawing an illegal drawing. Oh no. Take a good close look there now. What is that down there? Oh my God. The horrid genitals. But they have a personality.
I'd like to be able to have an orgy with young dudes and teenage guys.
It's like the fucking guy from American Movie. What's his name? I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. That's who he reminds me of. Fucking no, it's Coven, dude.
Guys and maybe older men with big beards and big hairy chests.
I just kind of want it all. I just kind of get fucked into oblivion. And also be a creep.
Maybe they'll find it today or tomorrow, or maybe they'll find it 10 years
look,
from
see?
now.
Oh, look. Oh, he's passing his fucking child pedophile pornography, hiding it in library books, probably as a drop for somebody to find. How wonderful.
And maybe some of the people might even be interested in having a discussion, because a lot of the stuff is going to have my address on it.
He's like, yeah, I'm just kind of interested in awakening weird desires of people randomly.
Footprints, footprints. I spy them there. I see them here, taking interest in those smallish, those I step in with care. Those smallish ones, the tracks of boys. Those footprints, like painted fingerprints. I step in, enjoy!
Holy shit.
Each time stepping, almost touch.
Holy
Each time
shit.
stepping, such footprints, footprints. Ah, such footprints. I'm glad there
Whoever
still
was
is.
recording this on the back end, because this is like a re-recording of re-recording. This used to be on YouTube. I don't know what happened to it. I think it's called Chicken Heads. That might be a different one though. But anyways, so if you see, like, sometimes it pops up, because this is somebody literally doing a screen record and re-uploading this. They're also checking. They're like, how much longer is this?
Something we far away can adore.
Excuse me, sir. Can I give this to you by chance? It's towards a further dialogue. You can read about what it's about. Check it out, man. Yeah. They give a nice smile, don't they, right now? as soon as they find out what it is, and they go, oh, wait a minute, what is this crap?
They don't like adults to mess with kids.
Right.
Anything.
They don't think that kids can be consent, but in this society, you'll notice in this society that there's woman-boy love movies all over the place, and I can tell you a whole bunch of them. If you ever heard Blame It on Rio.
Yeah, but grown-ups should leave kids alone and let them grow up and then decide.
If you want to let kids be kids, then we should allow genuine, see, age is an abstract.
Is that Jamie Lee Curtis? Look at this inarticulate fucking goon. There's boy love movies with women. No, not really. Not to the degree that you're talking about, buddy.
For one, and so is childhood. So it's all been constructed by society. Go for it. I love to just be with people and share life with people, and sexuality comes along as that comes along. But with kids, it doesn't come along in this country. I'll never break the sex hysteria laws because I will fight. I want to fight and stand up to the hysteria and do what I can in my life. If
this guy would like to be at one of these, Big Ben's birthday parties or whatever. He wants to get his ass in a swing and just get filled.
If my life is short, I'd still want to be able to stand up and do what I feel is in my heart to do.
Why is it that man-boy love movies aren't allowed in this society, I wonder? WNBC about putting NAMBLA down, they got all the power in the world.
An organization that advocates...
Like, you probably have something wrong with you if you are willing to go out and put yourself out like that. Honestly, you probably have some sort of you lack a level of self-awareness. That's pretty big.
The sexual molestation of young boys. John Miller's here with details.
From this nondescript building, NAMBLA runs its listed telephone number and some of its mailing. On a Saturday in November, we watched as boxes and boxes of literature were loaded in.
The audience were calling, and in the majority actually were supportive, and some of them.
I don't believe you at all, fuckface. I don't believe when Inside Edition did a profile that they were supportive of us. They wanted us to take their children and they empathize and they say, "Oh, you don't want to hurt them unless they want to engage with you." I understand.
Also kids, 4 or 5 different kids for 14, 15, 16 years of age call in and express themselves. I didn't know at the beginning. I didn't know.
He loves it too. He's like, "Oh, these teenagers, they call in and they say they want my hot fucking Italian cock." And I say, "Okay, well, who am I to deny them this pleasure? Who am I to deny them this? It's me, the Pope of the pedophiles, you know?"
They were that young, but they expressed themselves with a way of saying that young people has,
like you have to be fucking insane to think that's what's happened. You gotta be a little off. You gotta be fucking crazy, in my opinion.
Cool man, things like that. And when you're talking with
cool
the kids,
man.
That's the age. So I'm 14. Okay, good. And I think you are great. I think I like you. I like you. The show. And keep up, man. Keep up. Don't let them scare you.
Belief is everyone should have a belief worth dying for. If you don't have a belief worth dying for, then you don't believe in anything. And as far as I'm concerned, you're a coward, and I don't want you around me. And I really feel that most parents, without hesitation, will fight and die for their children. And when push comes to shove, homosexuals get tired of it. There'll be no incentive for someone else's children.
And they try to do this documentary that's kind of pernicious, is that they want to tie homosexuality into pedophilia. Now, granted, I do think that there is a lot of pedophilia that goes on in the homosexual community. I think that there is. In the same way that men are predatory towards young girls, I think they are. If you're gay, you're probably predatory towards young men. And I do think that happens. I do. I think I've heard enough stories anecdotally. I've seen enough data to suggest that that's a problem in that community, and especially when it comes to young, vulnerable, malleable guys. They totally get sucked in by this shit. I talked earlier in the stream about running with scissors. You can go find that for yourself. That would be a case study in terms of just the normalization of the idea that like a NAMBLA-esque pedophilic relationship happened, and then they put all the responsibility on the kid. They don't like accept it themselves. It's just bizarre behavior.
I just want to be able to walk down Fifth Avenue, okay, and see adults and children mingle together and go into a theater, go to a restaurant. I like to see children like they do in Egypt or another country.
People want to think of every pedophile as being like a Jeffrey Dahmer or John Wayne Gacy, and we're not.
No, they don't. They don't think that every pedophile is a serial killer. They don't. You're just a fucking psychopath. If you think people think that like you, oh no, they think that you want to abuse their children, brainwash them, groom them. That's what they think.
I mean, those are a few sick individuals that you see, on television, on the news, or whatever. But
oh my God, they're like showing all their names. Like this Bill Bickley dude didn't really say much and did not name himself. Ugh.
I mean, there's far less of them than there are.
Bill Hader, his newest character, pedophile guy.
Guys that are out there, hurting women.
I'm sort of a borderline egomaniac, you might say. I've done a lot of things in my life. I was able to maintain myself pretty well up until about 1.5 years or 2 years ago. And then I got into some problems and wasn't able to do what I had been doing. Basically what I was doing was a visually oriented activity. I don't even know if I should say.
You're jerking off.
Basically, I was doing something that I really, really did not want to be doing, which was looking at people through their windows. And
what do you say to people who join because they want to meet boys?
Let's see. Can we go off camera here for a second?
Well, there you have it, folks. I am so sorry. The depth of creepiness on that was to a degree that I did not understand. Like I said, I didn't really know what we were getting into. We were just kind of going to go for it. We were just going to figure it out together. That was an unpleasant experience. Wildly unpleasant experience. But I think it's an important one to have, honestly. You cannot... Listen. That was from 1993. And those people are just more and more embedded with this shit. And how they discuss these things, how they rationalize it, how they feel about it. You need to see, because these are people in a rare time you're going to see the honesty from them. You don't get to experience that most of the time. Like, you don't get to experience their honest opinions, their hopes, wants, desires. That's not like something that you get to hear all the time. You need to hear that, and you need to sit with it. Because that's some fucked up garbage. Alright, everybody. Thank you for hanging out tonight. This has been Nightcap for March 15th into 16th, 2021. We'll see you next Monday night. I'm gonna try to keep it light. My soul is feeling just rotten as fuck. Just rotten to the core right now. I need to go smoke at least 6 cigarettes before I go to bed. Just to cool off from that. Holy fuck. I feel evil. I feel evil for putting that back out there. Honestly. I don't know. There's been... we've watched a lot of weird shit. That was the most disturbing thing I think we've watched. I think it's the most disturbing thing. Anyways. We'll talk to you folks later. Godspeed. Happy nights. It's Zoobox, baby. Nightcap.